And then with the school on this project, we planted 17 trees. Inside that was a compromis. So the 70 trees we planted was a deal for cutting all these trees down on this on this playground. Yeah, okay, it's something. If you didn't have this compromis, you had nothing. But yeah, you can't really compare 17 young trees with 17 big trees. We did this project with the schools and they planted these trees, which was really nice.
Stick Your Neck Out, the weekly podcast of the Giraffe Heroes Foundation.
Guerrilla gardeners tend to work wherever a natural presence is needed. Sometimes they work outside of the legal system. Guerrilla gardening is a global ecological movement that focuses on caring for neglected public space. Welcome to Stick Your Neck Out, a podcast to restore your faith in humanity. Every Tuesday, you are going to get the chance to get to know one of the giraffe heroes, who they are and what they fight for. We are going to present you inspiring stories of people saving our world, making it better. My name is Jean-Pierre Aguiar Durañona, and my guest today is giraffe hero Hendrik Haers, a veterinarian who became a tree and bee activist. Hendrik, you gave up your doctoral career to engage yourself in the struggle to sustain bees and trees, first and foremost in your local community. You are fighting in Basevelde, a small rural municipality in the northwest of Belgium, to make an all-inclusive habitat for people, bees and trees alike by all possible means. Hendrik, you are a green activist, a guerrilla gardener. Tell me, how can I picture your activism?
It was from an organization who in Dutch is called the Bosgroep of Bos Plus. It's an organization that's planting forests in Belgium, but also in America. Yeah, they did an action, the Yes We Can action, along one of the highway that's running through our village. And they planted a lot of trees there. And yeah, that's a bit where I started with this guerrilla gardening. In fact, it started a bit earlier. Where I live, my parents live, there were two big trees there. There was a triangle, a green triangle inside the road. There were big trees, and during my whole youth they were there. So they were a kind of reference point for me, and all of a sudden they cut it and they wanted to put this triangle green area into concrete. So I went a bit crazy on it. So I wrote to the village, you can't do that and that, and you have to plant something new. So they planted one tree. But yeah, I just took shrubs and I planted the whole thing full. So that was my first action of guerrilla planting. And then I followed with this action of this Bos Plus group, so this forest group. So we planted a lot of trees, and then I went further and further, and I went inside organizations such as Natuurpunt, who are dealing with nature conservation, but also in the Milieuraad in our village. That's an advisory board who advises the village to take measures, nature questions and environment questions. And then we made a bee working group, especially to work around bees, and especially not really the bees, but to provide food for them, because that was our conclusion. There is just not enough food for these bees in this green desert that we live in. So we are really working around that right now.
In your presentation on our kickoff event last Friday, you talk about a green desert. Are we talking about these new tree planting techniques in desertified, poor or rocky areas?
With green deserts, I mean that I live in the countryside. And in the countryside, yeah, you think it's not in the city. It is a green area, and people think it is. But if you look closer, you see the color is green, but there are no flowers left. So there are monocultures of grass, of potatoes, of maize, of grain, but there is no flower in it. So the bees or biodiversity, it doesn't have anything to do with this green that you see. So that's a desert. And also in the building estates, so the living areas, we see that around the houses there are all lawns. lawns that they spray against flowers, that the flowers won't come up inside the lawn, so they are all green, but without any chance for insects to survive there. So that's what I mean by green deserts. And there are ways, so in agriculture there are ways you can solve it. So you have the agroecology and agroforestry, and these are new techniques that you can use to include nature in the farming process. But that's not really something as an individual that you can do something about it. So that's something the farming organization has to introduce. What we do with our bee working group is more about convincing people to change the lawn, to plant more trees, to plant more shrubs, to plant more flowers, to not always mow this lawn once a week, that the flowers that inside it, they can bloom, insects can have something. And also for the village council, the public space, we make plans and we say to the village, so you can plant these trees there and that there. And so we are trying to make this green desert less of a desert and more a blooming area for our bees.
So you have this, you're talking about this big village where you have like everything, or where you grow up. Tell us a little bit more about how can I picture it? How can I see this village of you?
Well, yeah, it's a small village, I think 3,000 people that are living there. It's an agricultural village, so you have the center of the village, and then, yeah, it fades away, and then you have agriculture. So in the center of the village, that's where I live now. I used to live with my parents a long time, and that was in the agriculture, so really on the countryside, so not in the center of the village, on the countryside. I lived there a great part of my life. It was really big, it has 20,000 square meters, something like that. We had a lot of animals, a lot of green, so yeah, I was really into this green from my youth on. But then, yeah, I went to school, like to high school, to university. I became a doctorate, so I did my doctorate, a PhD. So I think I was more busy with that, and also with cycling. I did a lot of cycling then, it was my passion. But then when this happened with these trees, it changed a bit. And then also I moved to this our big garden inside the center of the village, which was once of my grandfather. He bought it in the early 80s or end 70s. It was really a very, very nice garden. So yeah, it's a small paradise inside the village of Bossevelde. Inside there's green deserts, in fact. And my goal is to increase this paradise, because I started, I think 2009, 2010 with bees. So first with the classic beekeeping. That was a bit a disaster. I changed then with more natural beekeeping. So in our garden they are, I think, 9 hives now. Yeah, and we see, like I said, they have not enough food, so I want to increase this amount of food by increasing our garden to the surroundings, and that's what we do now. We want to plant all over the place.
So what can I as an individual do to help reforesting? Because you want to plant, but what can I do? I mean,
well, that's a problem. We are limited in our planting. In our own garden, we can plant it full, but that's the problem with bees. When you have sheep and they are within the fence, they eat what you give them to eat. But bees, they are there. They fly in the periphery of 3 kilometers. So that's big. That's the whole center of our village. So there you have to provide the food, you can't do it alone, so you have to create an awareness in with the people of the village that our bees have no food, so we have to create an additional source of food. So we need your garden, in fact. That's what it is. Your garden now it's a lawn. Bees don't have anything, they can't find food there. So we try to convince them, first of all, to get the awareness of, there is a problem. You live in a green village, but it's a green desert. It's not really a green village. And then, you have to come up with some actions to plant at least one tree in your garden, or just some square meters that you can rewild, or you can seed some flowers. So the people, in fact, can help, and if they just plant one tree in their garden, in a village, in a building estate of 200 gardens, you have a small forest. You have a bee-friendly forest. In fact, in Flanders, when you take all gardens, it takes 8% of the surface of Flanders. 8% is more than you have nature fields of nature inside Flanders. So if we rewild all these gardens, we have a new forest. As a matter of speaking. So if everyone just plants one tree, we have a small forest inside.
That would be great. That would be great. I remember Friday you talked and showed us a picture, actually 2 pictures. It was some kind of before and after. On the first one you could see like this beautiful green garden with a playground kind of. On the other picture you showed us like there was a big cement house over there.
Yeah, that was a shocking picture, and I'm still mad about it. That's the village council who does that. That's a public space. It was a playground. Next to the playground was this small amount of trees. Yeah, you can't call it a forest, but yeah, the children who were playing there, they're playing inside the forest. But yeah, on the plan it's colored as building area, so you can build there. But yeah, then I gathered some people, because it's a playground and nature is so important for children. So I gathered people, signed a petition. I think I had almost 200 signs. But yeah, the village council, they just wanted some money because they just built a community house, so they needed some money, and that would give them money. So they just sold it, and they cut down all the trees, and they put the really cement house, and then the surroundings around it are also, there's no water infiltration. It's just horrible.
And there was nothing you can do about it?
You can't do nothing about it. I tried. I wrote objections to government and things like that, but if they want to do it, they can do it, because it's colored as building area. So in fact, the whole of the village is building area. Also, our garden, this Little Paradise, every year they call, can you sell it to us? We want to build on it. And they can, if the family says, okay, we've had it, you sell it, then they come 25 houses on that space. And it's a bit crazy that it's possible. Yeah.
I think you talked something about being with some kids and planting some trees.
Yeah. Because it's the future. The kids is the future. There should be an educational component. We are working with creating awareness. Like André Wermelinger, who did the podcast last week, he's more inside the bees. We have bees, we are working with bees, but they are more a measure to say, like the canary and the coal mines, to say, so van, now we have this colony, we are September, now in fact they should be full of honey to become through the winter, So this hive we put inside the tree, we lowered it, we looked, there's not one drop of honey in it, because of this green desert. So that creates some awareness, but most important part is that you go to schools, and that the children, that you learn them how important nature is, and that a bee is not something you have to be afraid of because it stings you, and it just has a cause, and when it stings you, alright, it's part of life, because the bee is important. If you ride your bike, and there's something on the road and you fall, shouldn't we ride our bike then? It's just an accident.
It happens.
It happens. So the bee is there. It has an important role in our life. And if it stings you, maybe you were too close, or you, like Fabian, my son, he has always the habit to to really be friendly with it, and to cuddle it.
Yeah,
And he had done bombus and hommel. In Dutch it's a hommel, and not really the words in English, but they are the larger bees where it's really hairy.
Okay, these bumblebees.
The bumblebees,
Yeah,
yes,
bumblebees,
right.
yeah.
And he wanted to cuddle it, and all of a sudden, the bumblebee didn't like it.
Yeah,
So
of
in
course.
his thumb, and he came, stuck me. So I explained it. I said, yeah, he didn't like it. And after 2 minutes, he was gone off again.
Yeah.
And after 10 minutes, he was again
Again cuddling.
cuddling the bee. So
Yeah.
it's really beautiful to see how these children, in fact, from inside, they are really inside this nature. They don't have this fear. We learn them to have this fear.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
just with this, watch out.
Yeah.
Something can happen or whatsoever. Then you just learn the first time to be scared of anything. Yeah?
And that was in another part of, we have the project with our Weizenseifener Hängekorben, so these special homes for bees that we hang inside the tree, and we hanged it inside the big tree on this playground. Yeah, and then you have the questions, because the village has to allow you to do that, because it's property of the village. And always it's the same, but there will be children here and that and that. But we explained that it will be high enough and so on, that and that. And also that it has an educational component inside it and create awareness. So it's not a problem, really. We should include these bees in our life. And that's what we want to do. And then with the school, on this project, we planted 17 trees. Inside that was a compromis. So the 17 trees we planted was a deal for cutting all these trees down on this on this playground.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, it's something. If you didn't have this compromis, you had nothing. But you can't really compare 17 young trees with 17 big trees of 20,
Yes, of course
30
not.
years old. It is not,
Yeah.
you can't compare it. We did this project with the schools, and they planted these trees, which was really nice. And I always do a big talk before it, so they learn something. And that's something they take, I hope, they take at home. And then we several years ago we did a plant action with crocus bulbs, flowers, also with schools. And then they come home, and then I heard from parents, they come home and say, I want to plant flowers, these bulbs inside our garden. And then you achieve something.
Right.
So I think we should do more in these schools to include schools more, because they are the future. Eh?
You tell us before about this big carp you put on the tree. How do you call it?
Well, it's in fact a Swiss bee home. So it's Swiss made. They call it a Weizenseifener Hängekorben. In English, they always call it a sun hive. Don't know why, but I prefer the name Weizenseifener Hängekorben. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's really, it's really a nice project. Yeah.
So the idea is, you put this hanger carp on a tree, and that come bees on it, and they started to live there.
We invite the bees. That's a big difference with classic beekeeping. Classic beekeeping, the bees can't be bee anymore. We control them so much, so we don't let them to swarm, because also these swarms, and what will the people and the neighbors say? You can't do that. And also by preventing them, the colony is remaining big enough to get more honey, and that's what it's all about, honey. We want to harvest honey. So in classic beekeeping, we don't want this honey anymore. Just the honey is just for the bees. Especially when you are in such a green desert as ours, so everything they gather, it should be for them.
Okay, but it's not the idea of beekeeping is not to harvest honey.
No, and it's also not to harvest honey. It's just to create a home for the bees, because there are not enough homes for bees in nature. Bees, they are in fact they are living inside hollow trees, Yeah, they are no hollow trees. In our garden, they are really big trees from hundreds, more than 100 years old, and they are hollow areas in it. So they can, but for the rest, there is nothing left. Maybe an empty chimney or something like that.
Okay.
I know a swarm which is in an empty chimney in our village. But the main idea of this Henrik is to invite a swarm. So our bees, they just swarm, and the swarm is hanging there. As it's hanging there and you can reach it, you can take the swarm, put it in another hive. If you can't and it's just too high up, I just leave it there. And one of these swarms they just invited themselves inside this Henrik.
That's awesome.
That was just the whole idea, and it was really crazy because we hanged this Henrik, and 4 days after it, there was a swarm inside it.
That's beautiful.
It was really beautiful, yeah. We thought it would maybe take a year or so, but 4 days after there was already a swarm in it. So that was a great project. We didn't do anything, we still don't do anything, but we lowered it just to see if there was some honey. There wasn't, so I have to feed them. And that's what we encounter with this natural beekeeping. We don't treat them against parasites like varroa or virus. We don't treat them. I have the impression after 5-6 years they come through winter. But we have to feed them. If we don't feed these bees, they die. Yeah. So what we are seeing now is that without treatment against the diseases, somehow they find a way to deal with these diseases through natural selection.
It's natural.
Yeah, in the beginning I had some losses, now I have less losses. But if I don't feed them, I have dead colonies. So our conclusion has been, we have to feed them and plant. Like I said, Friday we plant and we won't stop till we drop.
No, that's right. You learned about the beekeeping first with your wife, Sarah, and then you just switch or change from traditional beekeeping to natural beekeeping. Why are you so fascinated with these bees? With the bees?
With the bees, if I'm so fascinated, I was always a bit busy with green and nature. Not really outside the bees, and that's really interesting because I met Sarah in 2008, 2009 I think, and that was a bit the first thing. She says she doesn't have really this background of this green, but she was also, the idea came from Sarah, so why shouldn't we do a course beekeeping? So I immediately said yes, great. And at that time I wasn't really busy with these bees, so we did 1 year basic beekeeping, 2nd year advanced beekeeping. We learned everything you had to know about the life of bees and how you should treat them to get this honey. And then we got a hive from a family, an old family from Sarah. So the first year it didn't went very well, and said you have to treat, otherwise it won't manage. So we started to treat, but the problems kept going. 1 hive, 0 hive, 1 hive, 2 hives, 0 hives, and said and what you have to do, you have to use this acid strips or put drops on it on bees, and to prevent swarming you really have to put all there are really windows inside. You have to put them out, and you have to find the swarming cells and to cut them out. And if it was really a mess, bees everywhere, stress, and I didn't feel good about it. Also, so beehive is very dependent upon the temperature inside the hive. Every week when you open this hive, there's a temperature drop, which the varroa mice likes it, this temperature drop. So I said no, it's nothing for me, or I will stop with beekeeping. But then I heard about a more epicentric way of beekeeping, natural beekeeping, that you can just leave this beehive alone, and it's such logic at that time. It doesn't. It was really a revelation. You just do nothing. And I experimented with several types of beehives, like André has it, and also this Weissenseifener Henrik. I have a top bar hives, I have Waré hives, all types of hives, and the bees are doing rather well now. In every hive I put them in. And then I also discovered that my grandfather also was a beekeeper.
So it was in blood.
So something in my genes is there that I discovered afterwards. It's not because my grandfather was a beekeeper I started beekeeping, but apparently it has to do
Natural selection.
Natural selection, somewhere in the genes there's a bee gene or something like that. Yeah.
No, it's nice, but I find interesting that you said like by doing nothing you are doing a lot. So it's not doing nothing.
Yeah,
it's
because classical beekeeping, when we're talking about amount of colonies, it was really 1, 0, 2, 0, maybe 3, 0. Then one of a sudden I tried to, you have to multiply your hives. So on an artificial way, so you just split your hive and then I had 10, I made 10. The winter after I had again 3. Yeah. But then I did do nothing and I went from 1 to 3, and then from 3 to 2, from 2 to 6.
Wow.
Yeah, and then to 9. And last year I went from 9 to 7, I have 14. So you see the difference, and I have too many hives for this green desert. This is a problem now. Yeah. So I'm thinking, there are just too many honeybees now for this green desert. And for me now, I'm thinking about it. So maybe I shouldn't feed them anymore. Okay. And then select on the honeybees who are more resilient with a less amount of food. I don't need this 10 beehives. It will be too much. So I know already now I have such feelings after winter I will be less, maybe 5, because they don't find enough food in our environment. But I won't mind. I have just 5. They will be the 5 who are dealing with the situation. So I think not only on diseases you can select on a natural way. I think only on the amount of food you can select on a natural way, that you have maybe beehive to decide, we will become smaller, because when we become smaller we don't need this large amount of food. So that's what I'm now thinking about. Maybe I shouldn't feed them anymore, but it's just then you see your colony dying, and it's I look at it like you look at the dog or you look at the cat. You want to starve your dog. So you don't want to starve this colony because you can do something about it. But
so you have been part of our new initiative, Bees and Trees, Giraffe Heroes Fighting for Climate Adaptation. What are you planning to do if we manage to achieve our goal, if the crowd just support us? What is your...
The most important thing we want to achieve really on the countryside with us is awareness. We want to increase this amount of awareness, which isn't there. It's slightly increasing. Also with putting the hive there, the people are interested. It's really beautiful hive as well, shows you can explain. But before I thought, we are making plans for planting trees inside. I showed this picture inside this village estate. We made a suggestion to plant about 178 trees would be there. Should we collect money to pay that? No. That was the first idea, and don't think we should, because it's the responsibility of the village council to say we want this to plant these trees and we want to invest in it. It's not because they don't want to pay for it that we should pay for it. I think we should use this money to increase awareness, to think of actions we can do to increase the awareness inside the village council, so the people, politics who decide. But also, and more important, the people, for instance, that living inside the living estate, because we encounter vandalism. So the trees we planted with these kids, 2 or 3 almost every year, they are vandalized. And then the politics say, look, they don't want trees, why should we plant trees then? That's what we had this meeting on last Wednesday, and it was really a depressing meeting with the advisory board, and environmental advisory board that advises the council. It's really depressing, and the politicians are sitting there and say, yeah, but we have to ask the people that are living there because maybe they won't like it. And
but how it's possible that you won't like to have trees?
No, yeah, but and the village council, they signed the climate adaptation charter. We made a climate adaptation charter, and it's in trees and all these things, and you have ponds for water infiltration and things like that. They signed it, and then you come with a practical solution that inside the charter they won't do it because the people won't like it. So we have to work about it, and I think with the money we can collect, we have to think about projects we can do, measures we can take to increase the awareness, because then, it will be more easy to do other projects and plant trees, because without being vandalized afterwards.
Yeah, of course you have to create a conscience. So let's say I give you right now like all the money you need and the power and the choice, and you have the ability to do whatever you want. What is the first thing you will change right now?
I think it would be inside our village. You have the department that maintains the green areas inside our village, and they are just doing it like they did 30, 40 years ago. I would just reorganize it. So I would reorganize green department of our village council. That's first thing. I think it would be a very important thing, and also you should invest in just these green areas. Well, like I said, every area inside the center of the village is really to build, and there are some spots, potential green spots, that are left that can become green spots for children to play in, because the building, the living estate there, it don't have one playground. Don't have one playground,
that's
and there's
sad.
one empty area inside it, and they want to build it as well. So it's just the one full, so without any playground. So what I would do with every money I would have, but it would be a lot of money, is just buy, as a village council, buy these spots and make green areas of it. And you have several around the village, so every living estate has his own. So I think when you have the money, there's a lot you can do to increase the amount of green inside the village.
What is your message to our crowd?
Message, plant, and don't stop till you drop.
Thank you, Hendrik, for your visit.
I'm glad to be part of this nice initiative.
Next week, Tom Amat is going to be talking to Chris Malins, a giraffe hero who is also part of this campaign, and a teacher and a researcher, and has been developing holistic nature-based educational ideas for teachers and children for over a decade. He also has a special interest in tree morphology, and overall, his educational work focuses on the importance of experiential interaction with nature for kids and adults alike. They are also going to be talking about Chris's green transitioning program. Dear listeners, our nature is at risk through exploitation and climate change. Therefore, the Giraffe Heroes Foundation is fighting for climate adaptation and the regeneration of a healthy environment. We start at community level and with practical skills, naturalizing villages with trees and plants, reinvigorating the bees, teaching the crafts and the arts necessary in our times. With your help, we can give this work a greater impact and make it the start of the paradigm change. We are inviting you to come on board, be part of the struggle of the common goal, to keep the planet a human affair. If you want to be part of it, go please to wemakeit.com, look for our project Climate Adaptation, the Bees and Tree Initiative, and have a look at the great reward you can get while supporting us. That's it for today. You were listening Stick Your Neck Out, the podcast to restore your faith in humanity. I am Jean-Pierre Aguiar Durañona. We are proud to share every week inspirational stories from remarkable individuals, stories that come from many different places. We want to hear your stories too. If you'd like to tell us about your frontline hero, visit us at giraffe-heroes.eu. You'll find the Giraffe Hero Stories every Tuesday on Spotify, iTunes, our homepage, and every other place where you hear your podcast. Join us on our social media. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Join us again next week.
Stick Your Neck Out, the weekly podcast of the Giraffe Heroes Foundation.